Revolution Against Evolution. I'm your host, Doug Sharp.
Your co-host Rich Gear here with you as well, and Doug has come up with a great show, I think, idea for tonight. We talked to this a little bit, touched on this in part, but there's a new book that's come out with Dr. Jerry Bergman and 3 others, right, Doug? And what's the name of the book?
The book is called Debunking Human Evolution Taught in Our Public Schools.
Public schools, yeah.
And here it is. So the title of our show, we're going to take just one chapter out of this book and discuss it, are we 98% chimpanzee?
Oh.
And this is something that is actually, I believe, is a big delusion. And the Bible in 2 Thessalonians 2:11 says that there's going to become a time where people will be deceived. You know, they'll make a choice that they don't want God in their lives, and so they'll make a choice that they won't follow Him, and because of that, they'll believe a strong delusion.
They choose to, they're deluded because in fact, the Lord will actually send a spirit of delusion, but it's already there.
Right.
And so basically it's revealing what their heart is, it's already in their heart. So, and you got another scripture there, Doug.
In Romans 1:24, and that talks about where, and it's actually talking about sexual perversion. And this where God will give them over to their own desires and lusts, and they'll receive the reward in their bodies that is meat for what they're doing. So that's the warning that we have concerning this, is that there is the possibility that if we actually make a decision not to have God in our lives, and there's always that temptation to do this. Doug,
that's the thing. If we are evolved from animals, why are we surprised when people start acting like animals? The fact of the matter is, though, even in those situations, Doug, people realize they're making choices.
Right.
So, but because of strong delusion, because they want to believe a lie, they choose the lie. Okay.
Right.
But inside, they know it's a lie, but they would rather do what they want to do rather than obey the truth. But Doug, let's go into some of the hard stuff. What about this 98% statistic? What is this? Where does that come from, and why is
this was published? I think it was around 2000, 2002.
I remember that. Yes.
They said that they believed that the human genome and the chimp genome were 98% similar.
That was a huge story back in those days. I
remember we were at the Sturkfontein Caves. You remember that?
Yes, in South Africa. Yes.
South Africa, and they were. This is a place where Australopithecines were discovered, and Bachma, who was with us, asked the question, well, do you guys actually believe that the chimps were or these creatures were actually ancestors to humans? And they said, well, the genome is 98% similar to the humans, and this whole statistic is bogus. It's even if the only thing that they counted was the chromosome count, which chimps have 48 chromosomes and we have 46. And so if all the genetics of all the genomes were identical, that would just account for 97% difference.
Even just for that. Well, it's interesting. They actually have more chromosomes than we do.
Right.
So we devolved? Oh, I'm just kidding.
Well, there's been some people that suggested that, is that for some reasons a couple of chromosomes got spliced together, and that became the human being. But really, any high school student can debunk this notion by just taking an inventory of the differences between humans and chimps. We'll get into a little bit of
how you can debunk it.
How you can debunk it.
Stay tuned. We'll be there in a minute. But
but here's the issue about it, is that if we are indeed genetically related to chimps, the message behind that is that you can justify any animal type of behavior that you have, you know, specifically sexual behavior.
Yeah, I think primarily that seems to be the real underlying reason for believing a lot of this for a lot of people. I still remember, I didn't believe it was Huxley who said, you know, it's not that creation isn't viable, it's just that evolution allows us to sexually do what we want to do. In our world today, being steeped in an evolutionary mindset, you see where they're going with sexual mores today in our culture. Europe's long since gone into the tank. And those who try to, I mean, how many books, what was it, one book a few years ago, we've lost the culture war, and a lot of it's because we lost our biblical foundation. We've lost our belief that the Creator really created us in His image. And I think that's a big part of, I think, the show we're going to go into a little bit. But I think sex is the big thing. That they don't want any constraints upon that. In fact,
here's the constraint that the people sort of fight against. If we are descended from Adam and not apes, then we are responsible to God for our sexual behavior and how we are managed to it. Then we need to answer to God as our Creator, who made us for a purpose to have our behavior match what He would intend for us.
So we probably think this is why, I think it's why it's promoted so much in the popular books and literature and TV show. You can't avoid it. The television now and movies, it's everywhere. So anyway, well, Doug, so let's get into some of the nitty gritty about why is this statistic bogus? How could a high school kid disprove or debunk this? You know, he's got a little quote here. It says actually similarity is 88%. Why do you say that?
Well, if you take how many base pairs are different, which are the pairs of pieces of the DNA molecule.
Right. Okay. Yes, I got
make
you.
up the chromosome.
Right.
You sort of figure out how many are different from what the chimpanzees have. Now, there's a reason why there is similarity, and that is because all of life have some certain basic functions that it does.
See, and I think that's the crux of the issue of most of the similarity. And we've talked again about this, but it's good to bring it up. You know, why would you expect to have everything be completely different from a common, number one, designer, number two, a common environment where we're all in? We have to basically eat similar kinds of food, breathe the same air, use the same water, the sunshine, the plants. All these things are needed to have certain similarities to function not interchangeably, but interrelatedly. And I think that's a big part of most everything. When you get rid of the things that are necessary to be common, Doug, it seems to me it's the differences that really, those are really what really tell a story. But anyway, so
like there's 360 million base pairs that are different, and
well, that's a lot.
Okay. But what you have is the 3.1 billion base pairs for the human genome and 3.3 billion base pairs for the chimp genome.
Okay.
And so there's actually more genetic content in the chimpanzee than there is in the humans, at least. Now, it turns out that a certain fish had 25 times the DNA content.
Wow, we're really devolving, huh?
And so I think it all has to do with the types of functionality that is programmed into the creature that God has made.
Yeah.
And he made chimpanzees different in many ways. So in any event, these differences are significant, and the calculation that Dr. Jerry Bergman and Jeffrey Tompkins comes up with in this book talks about those differences that are it can't get the 98% at all by doing anything. And this is all only taking into account the coding regions.
Mm-hmm.
This is not taking into account the so-called junk DNA.
Oh, the non-coding DNA, yeah,
Right.
which is not junk. That is a misnomer. We've addressed that issue,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always good, Doug, for people maybe who've not seen it before. There's no such thing as junk DNA because it's it's non-DNA coding or not protein coding DNA. It has function. It has functionality, and they're figuring out some of the stuff that it's used for. But Doug, I think the thing about it is how they got this 98% thing. How do they do that, Doug? How do they come up with that statistic?
Well, here's the thing: is there was a study that was done a number of years ago. I attended a gene conference in 2006,
Okay.
and afterward I got a chance to interview Dr. Henry M. Morris
Yeah,
himself
yeah.
out in San Diego.
That's neat. Yeah.
But and that was just before he passed away, so it was a nice opportunity that we had. But anyway, what they found out was that this UCSC study at the University of California, Santa Clara, you can actually look at their website and see the comparisons that they did and how they actually got it there. And what they did was that they mapped out the human genome first and used it as sort of like a scaffold onto which they paste the chimp genome. But they slice and dice the chimp genome into pieces, and they fit it where it matches on the human genome.
Yeah,
And so if it doesn't matter what chromosome it comes from. It could come from that chromosome and paste it over there.
Wow.
But if it doesn't fit straightwise, they switch it around and fit it backwards.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And so there is, and so the shorter that you make these DNA strands, the more opportunity that you have to slice and dice it.
I'm sorry. Now that reminds me when I was a kid and I couldn't get. I had a 1,000-piece puzzle and I said, and figure out, well, that piece I can't make it fit, so let's cut the piece to fit where I want. You're gonna have a heck of a picture, Doug. You're not gonna have either a chimpanzee or a human out of that one, let alone a good scene.
Now here's the thing, just because something contains 98% similarity doesn't mean that there really is any significance at all. For example, watermelons, jellyfish, and snow contain 95% water. So that must mean that these all have a common ancestor according to that logic.
Yeah, well, I heard we were 98% water or something. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I heard we're 98% water, so wow, we must be related to the jellyfish and the watermelon too.
So we can't use chimp organs for transplants into humans.
That was in the book. I was looking at that. I go, I never really. We've actually been able to use other animals' parts for certain things, like pig valves.
Yeah.
We've been able to do that, and I've heard some of the testing they do on rats, which is more similar to us than a chimp,
Mm-hmm.
But we're not. No one makes the argument we're descended from a rat. Although I know
we have some similarities to a banana.
Yeah, so to a banana. I mean, it gets ludicrous, Doug. The things that people do to try to escape responsibility. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is, even when they do that, they get caught up in these webs of self-delusion, and then they end up backing off because they realize, we're in moral and all kinds of conundrums that really are not only they're not satisfying, but they basically cause a lot of heartache and destruction for the human society. So, I think that the thing about it, Doug, is that if you read the biblical text, man was created in God's very image. That makes us unique and special, unlike a chimpanzee.
If we're just a naked ape, that
Right.
robs us of this special quality that God has instilled with us with a living soul and a spirit. And we've been created to rule over all creation.
Right.
And chimps don't conduct funerals or bury their dead. They have limited verbal communication. They don't display spiritual behavior, and the idea of something that's similar is sort of like me as a computer programmer, I have my whole box of tools that I use to create a computer application.
Right.
And all creatures must perform the same functions of respiration, digestion, circulation, reproduction, and muscular, and the bones, and the whole. All
Right,
that
and that's what we were alluding to earlier, or I was.
And
anyway.
so
Some similarities.
it's important to understand that the similarity doesn't necessarily mean common descent, but it does imply strongly that there's a common designer who actually planned out the whole thing throughout everything.
Yep.
And like I said, the computer program takes out his toolbox components to assemble an application. And so, if I have a database I'm creating, I've got this same set of tools that I'm using.
Yeah.
And I follow the same principles for each database application. But just because, and so you can probably see my hand of work, because I sort of follow the same pattern throughout anything that I create. And that proves that there's a designer at work, and you can usually identify the designer of these applications if you see enough of them, because you'll find the same patterns repeated over and over again. And so we believe that this is a good sign that God is creator, and because we see his signature in creation. And an engineer uses the same kind of raw materials and building plans to produce different kinds of machine. It's an efficient way of design. And so if you find this the same computer code used in many different ways, it is indication of design. Of course, this has been the intelligent design argument all along.
Yeah, for a long time, right? And it's still a good one, Doug. I mean, it still makes sense. If you just get your head, out of the sand, you can look around and say, yeah, this makes no sense. I mean, everything, people throughout the ages have recognized that there is a difference between human beings and all other created things out here. And that we have this, even though, Doug, we're not the strongest, the fastest, we don't have the best eyesight, yet we're the one that's able to dominate and transform culture, environment, and things into what we want to do. We have that ability. In some sense, it's kind of like the Lord, and this is one thing that makes it sort of like, it reveals that we are made in his image, because we create. Not ex nihilo, not like God. We can't create out of nothing. But I'm an artist, okay, Doug, and I like to, I like to create paintings and dioramas and murals and sculptures and things like that. I mean, it's an instinct, and some people are more creative than others. But all of us have a certain bent to do certain things, whether it's lawn work, whether it's to make something nice, make your house whatever it is. We manipulate, we transform, we create, and this is, I think, an homage to our Creator. Whether you want to acknowledge that or not, it's who we are. It's the way we've been made. And there's a lot of things. I mean, chimpanzees can never do that, Doug. They can never create in the sense that we do.
Now, getting back to this book, this is written by Daniel Biddle, David Bisbee, and Dr. Jerry Bergen, who we've worked with quite a number of times.
Many times over the years.
And the reason that they came up with this book is that they've interviewed high school kids in public school, and what they've found is that the high school students say that this is a major question that they have about evolution, and a major question why young people get discouraged in their faith.
In the 98% chimp in the end?
Well, it's actually the whole human evolution.
Oh, okay.
So this book actually covers the whole gamut of human evolution, not just what we're talking about here. But we're taking one aspect of this that is, and there are a lot of differences that the chimpanzees have. for example, they can't roll their eyes. You know, they've got actually some mechanism in their eyes that
Prevents it?
Prevents it.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
And they can't tap their fingernails with their thumb because their thumb's way down here.
Oh, yeah.
And so they can't, you know, their thumbs are built for climbing and not for doing dexterous work.
Yeah.
And then their knees point out, and ours point forward. They don't build space shuttles.
No, they can't even build a bicycle, you know?
They can't express thoughts in writing, music, and speech. And so these are things that we as humans can do with our intelligence. And the question, you know, it's interesting that our genome is smaller than their genome, and yet
we can do more things.
We can do more things. Yeah, it's sort of like a little bit of a conundrum for evolutionists. Compared to chimps, humans are 30% taller, 80% heavier. They live 50% longer. Their brains are 400% larger.
Yeah.
And the chimp genome is much longer. It's, like I said, humans have 3.1 billion base pairs. Chimps to 3.3 billion base pairs. And this difference alone accounts for 6.4% difference. And this is just the count of base pairs, not the order.
Yeah.
And the
order makes things a lot different, doesn't it?
It does. And so, like I said, the study that was done at the UCSC, where they matched on the human scaffold, you can actually figure out what kind of differences it would be if they had patched it all over the place.
If they made it the way it really is, what do you think the percentage would be there, Doug?
I would say that it would dive down pretty rapidly. You know.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe even 50% or less. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, quite a bit different.
And if you take into account the differences with the non-coding regions, and which again, this is something that conveys meaning. It actually has stuff with structural, and the structure of the DNA is important in its function. And so, and then one of the things is that there was a theory that was brought about because the difference in the number of chromosomes. They believed that there was a fusion
that's what you talked about earlier.
Of two chromosomes into one. But they've actually took a look at that and it revealed that that really does not hold water.
That does not work. Okay.
No, if you look at it specifically, there's no similarity at all between the fused.
Yeah, which two would have been fused and they can't find one. Yeah.
Now here's a study that was done by our friend Dr. David DeWitt.
Oh, really? Okay.
Who, by the way, became a creationist after reading my book.
I know he likes to point that out, and I think he should be justifiably kind of geeked about that. Anyway, Doug, that's kind of neat.
But he's shown that humans have 40 to 45 million base pairs that are missing in chimps. So somehow these have to be created ex nihilo.
Yeah, because there's where did they get them from?
Right. And then there's about the same number present in chimps that are absent in man.
Oh my gosh, so now you got 90 million differences in base pairs. Okay.
And then we also talked about the 360 million base pairs where, there's total difference. Ideology concludes that man is not special, and that justifies mistreatment of humans worldwide by genocide. That's what has happened as a result of picking up this idea of humans coming from chimps.
Well, it justifies it. I mean, in the past, people did things like that. It's the nature of man. Right? Our nature, which we know from a biblical text, is fallen. We've talked about this over and ad nauseum. But you have to bring this up, Doug, or it makes no sense they say we got this great loving creator, and you got all this crud out here because there is a fallen world we live in, but saying that we don't justify it. You try to repent. Which means turn away from it. We try to do what they say, listen to your better angels, as this old saying is. We try to listen to the designer, listen to what he's given us in his word, in his book, to how to live, how now shall we live, and like Francis Schaeffer talked about that years ago. And the fact is, this is the struggle we've had since the fall of man. Is how to do good in an evil world where human beings want to go. But the Darwinian revolution has justified this evil in a way that's never been before. People did it. People killed each other. Shoot, Cain killed his own brother. But the fact of the matter is, this tells you we're nothing but animals, and so survival of the fittest. Whoever's the strongest, we have the right to tell you how to live. And this is what we see a lot.
That's the ultimate bully in the seventh grade logic, right?
That's ultimate bully in the seventh. Well, I had the second grade, but anyway, so.
But anyway, about this book, this is we've only touched one aspect of this book. This book goes into Australopithecines and Neanderthals and
Homo habilis, Homo erectus,
goes into
all those different kinds, yeah,
and explains what these bones that they found actually are. The history of the frauds and the different things that go on.
I like what they said there. They said there's two Bible friendly groups that really, and everything does fall into either apes or humans.
That's right, yeah.
None of these things, there's no missing links in between. Every time they try to come up with a missing link, they create three more, and there's not
Right.
there. You have apes and you have humans, and then this book goes into which one is which.
And if you're seeing that, that's the strong delusion I was talking about earlier. Is that you're actually seeing a sequence, and you're allowing that belief to confuse you into believing that the similarity in design is actually common descent.
Trust me, artists can create a lot of cool things out of whole cloth.
Right.
I'm speaking as an artist. You can make them all kinds of stuff, and they've done it, and it's amazing the chicanery in the name of science that has been pulled off on the public, especially in the textbooks and in the institutions of higher learning. When you get to college, it doesn't get any better, Doug.
Right.
You know?
Anyway, buy this book, Debunking Human Evolution Taught in Our Public Schools. We'll see you next time on Revolution Against Evolution.